Hello everyone and welcome back to another book review. Today I am going to be reviewing Stegosaurus, An Extraordinary Specimen and the Secrets It Reveals by Paul M. Barrett. This book discusses a specific Stegosaurus fossil skeleton by the name of Sophie, which was discovered in Wyoming, the state of Wyoming in the United States, and eventually made its way to London in 2014 to be revealed in the Natural History Museum. So this book discusses the story of how that fossil came to London, but also discusses Stegosaurus lifestyle and what we can learn from looking at this fossil. And I indulged my inner child and had a fantastic time reading this book. There's lots of fantastic photography throughout this book, and overall I thought this was a fun read. So let's talk about this Stegosaurus Sophie and how it came to be in London. The format of this book switches between the story of the discovery of the fossil and its move to London and the biology, the science, the research into Stegosauruses. So we're kind of flipping back and forth. So the first chapter is the discovery of this in Wyoming. Then we go to the biology of the dinosaur. Then we go into, okay, it's being moved. And then we go into the lifestyle of the dinosaur. And then we go into building the display. And then we go into future science. So we're flipping back and forth between this storyline of the specific skeleton. And then we're switching to the biology, the science, what can be generalized and learned from this fossil. So that's the format of the book. The discovery of this fossil was actually in 2003, which I think underscores how long it can take for some of these things that we see in museums to get there, not just from the time the dinosaur died to when it was fossilized to when it came into being, but this was discovered in 2003 and it was an accident. A bulldozer in a site where they were already digging accidentally hit a wall or a piece of rock and it chipped off, and someone noticed that there were spots in there that looked like bones, and upon further research and digging, they discovered a nearly complete Stegosaurus skeleton, and that is something that they did not have before. The Stegosaurus, while being well known, and I dislike the overuse of this word, but it applies here, iconic use of this dinosaur in kids' toys and cartoons and books, doesn't really line up with how many skeletons we have. So we don't have a lot of complete skeletons. We have very few bones to even develop this dinosaur from. And so the discovery of a complete skeleton on accident in 2003 was a big deal. So I do have some maps I wanted to show you. These are on page 11 and 12 to show you exactly, well, 12, I'll start with this. They show you exactly the first time they saw it, which were it's kind of hard to see, but it's just dark splotches in the rock. I'm sure these people are trained to look for it, but I feel like I would have missed that. The page is glossy and I feel like the light kind of shines off it. But for those of you not familiar, Wyoming is like in the western half of the United States, but they discovered it. They have this map here on page 11, kind of west of Sheridan. And then they have it up here kind of really on just this ranch in the middle of nowhere. So after we find the skeleton, that's a big deal. Now they have to figure out what they're going to do with it. I also want to show this page here. So we can see there's a large cluster of these Stegosaurus skeletons found over here in the western United States, although they are found all throughout the world. So this has been found, and then the author takes a break to discuss the biology, so other relatives, other skeletons, like on that map I just showed you, other skeletons we found in the world, and the uniqueness and the completeness of this skeleton, and how good of an idea, or how good of a opportunity this is to find a skeleton like this. Then we go into actually acquiring the skeleton. So because the Stegosaurus was found on private property, it actually belongs to the person whose property it was found on. And of course, I'm sure this man has no interest in having it himself, so he decides to sell it. Makes sense. You could probably get a lot of money for that. And that's where the Natural History Museum of London comes in. They're able to get some donors because it is quite pricey, and they are able to acquire a skeleton. They're able to acquire Sophie, this complete skeleton. And they decide at this point they want to keep this a secret. They want to reveal it to the public in secret. So they have acquired this, and now they're going to work on building the exhibit that they're going to put in their museum for this skeleton. Then we take a jump back to like the biology and science, and this section I found really interesting, where by looking at these fossils, scientists try to infer lifestyle, like how the spines, the ridges on the back, these things right here were used, what it ate, how it could have used its tail, how it walked, whether or not it would have stood upright. And they're able to do this through a wide variety of techniques, but one of the ones that was interesting to me is these computer models they would build after like scanning the bones to see if things would physically work. So So I felt like that section was really, really interesting to me, how much they can infer from these bones. Moving the fossils, of course, takes some work too. They have to wrap them in plaster, so they do take some time discussing these very complicated methods. They had to pack some of them in foam, as we can see here, to keep them safe. And then once they're at the museum, they're having to get this bone off, or the stone off the bone to keep it all cleaned up. And they have to build the wire casing that it's going to go in. So they build the display, and they do a lot of planning and prepping, and they keep it all secret. They're able to, obviously some people have to know, but they keep it secret from the public until in 2014 they are ready to surprise everyone. We have a nearly complete Stegosaurus skeleton, which is super cool, and the public receives it well, and Sophie, which is the nickname of this Stegosaurus, is on display for everyone to see. The last section discusses some of the future science, or some of the emerging science. It was emerging at the time. I don't think this is a recent book, so if I had to imagine, some of this research has been completed. Yeah, this was done in 2017. So that last chapter might be a little outdated, but they talk about things or different projects or things that have been discovered because of the completeness of the skeleton, and some of the emerging science that can come from having such a complete skeleton. It's like this one here is about the bite force of the jaw, because we have the complete skeleton, which is very unusual. And so this last section, well, I think probably a lot of additional research has been done in this section. This is about some muscles over here. It's still interesting to read, especially as a layperson, if you don't need to be up to date on the most recent dinosaur research, then this would probably be sufficient. I was sufficiently impressed by this last section. So overall, I really enjoyed this book. I felt like it was kind of indulgent of my inner child, but a lot of adult books don't have this many pictures, and I don't know, maybe I sound like a child, but there's something about a good picture that I just like. A picture's worth 1,000 words. So it was fun to just look through this book that was not aimed for children. So this is not a children's book. It's aimed at adults, so it's written to an adult audience with an adult-based understanding, but it has some of that appeal to things that you probably liked as a kid, looking at dinosaur pictures. So I like the blend of both of them, and I think it did a really good job. What this book actually makes me want to do is book a trip to a museum with dinosaurs immediately, and I think I might be tempted after reading this book. So if you want to indulge your inner child, read about Stegosaurus, in particular the one that they have in London, maybe check out Stegosaurus by Paul Barrett. I enjoyed it. I had a fantastic time reading it, and I think you will as well. Please leave your thoughts and comments in the comment section down below. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.